Information ground lines, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, redirecting panels, or calculation system. Ground centers is all about the operation of its VR line setting, operation of its system through its calculation line, rotation, surface, tractions. In that line, it's very powerful when we came in position locations. I've been watching Supergirl. When truth comes into justice will prevail, but it's got to be the position of justice of you. Trying to figure out the Earth, your Earth line screen in position of 5-10 minutes doesn't help the sequence, doesn't have the power, doesn't have the generation screen line, doesn't put you off positions, puts you calculation lines of confusion. And you just focus on yourself and you're good to go, because that's all that you can focus on. You can't focus on things that are out of control. Things are out of control. You have to focus what has to be in control is you. That's how you start identifying yourself, how to bring things in control that is already out of control, right? Only focus on yourself. So in that position locations, I'll just get a brief rundown about what it's all about. There's an Obsidian, and basically there's a VR launch, and Alex is basically, she has to go into the VR system to basically retrieve a missing person in the VR system, right? So it's kind of like I'm putting on these lenses, and then I'm starting to see the simulation, how I want to see it through my thoughts, right? So it takes you in a safe haven. Not realizing if you're having problems in the position of the VR system, there's a fail-safe, right? End simulation, and then you're out, right? Not realizing what you're out of is position of its matrix. You're back in the matrix, okay? The actual VR system is where you're supposed to be. See the backwards correlation lines of traction settings? So that's confusing on its own system. So anyway, Alex is in the VR system, and she's basically looking at a holographic room, and everything has an obstacle. So she's picking what she wants. She clicks that, and it takes her right there to platform, right there. Platform, here's a platform right here, right? Okay, so it's this, right? This is what she's picking, right? She's picking this one, right? So that sets up the grounds, okay, in position of its locations. So it actually sets up the room, okay, sets up the room, right? So when she's there, she's going through a hallway. Okay, she's going through a hallway, right? There's a door. Okay, she goes through the door, right? Okay, so she's going through the door, right? And she sees the missing person, right? She's here. Now she doesn't realize that she's in a simulation, right? So she's here. So communicating right away, okay? Sending communication lines attract centers into the VR system, okay? So in calculation, ground sending lines of operation, lines of service. So if she's trying to figure out how does she defend herself? Well, she doesn't have anything, so she has to get in use her imagination. She uses her imagination, poof, something appears, some tractions, right? So she can use it to defend herself, right? So she gets a better understanding how to use the VR system, which is all through the imagination. Basic understanding is all levels. So that just gives you basic grounds. But please feel free to watch that episode, all right? Season 5, episode 15, all right? Reality, bytes, B-Y-T-E-S, bytes, megabytes. Okay, so in that position location setting, this is how the VR is set up, okay? Data formation lines of screens, adaptation lines of surface attractions, right? All calculated modified. So you're in position locations and you're picking the obstacles of the game, right? All right, so platforms here and track location. Okay, all right, so you're here, all right, and now the simulator is set up. So you got people here, 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 right? People over there, right? And so now the cross lines calculation line screens, we call them NPCs. Okay, they're NPCs, right? They're there, right? So you're consciously aware of where you are in the simulator, of the simulation, right? That you set up, okay, for you to play in, right? So understanding this is understanding the VR, okay? But you have to understand you've always been there. You've never left. You've never left, okay? It's just muscle memory. muscle memory of where you've been. Okay, there you go, done. All right, so graph communication lines, we have that test today, how we get in position locations and settings. We're going to travel line and position lines to show you guys the mine itself, what it does through all formula, and how to really understand how to direct your signals and how to get it in your position locations and your settings, and how to use it through your vessel, your pods, and your calculation system to all levels of your vehicle. Well, it's all levels of you. It's an optical system of you to understand the muscle memory of you coming back to who you are, all right, in the VR system, the virtual reality of you, right? So you can do anything you want in the VR system. Okay, anything you want. You can have anything you want. You can have anything you do in the VR system. There's nothing you can't achieve. A process communication comes all over the formations, right? So you're here, and you got a platform. You got to have the platforms, right? That's why you have an equal. The equal is the VR. So it's a position of center operation cycle. So in that track locations, when we're on live on TikTok and Gypsy and I were communicating with each other, right? There's no past, present, future because your past, present, future is done. So if it's done, that means Gypsy and I are just talking in the now, always talking in the now, just at different frequencies of the game, different levels of the game. Now we can change those frequencies. We can change that position. We can change the obstacles in seconds, minutes, and hours, right? But still be talking, right? So to understand that, you set yourself as a hologram. You set edit signature. You set a jump scar. You set an energy pad, energy position location system. You vortex out, you vortex back in, right? You copy and paste yourself through default. So that puts you still in communications and settings and that track locations, right? So you can be anywhere you want with the positive and negative into that positions, going in the same directions, just different locations. And that's where your thoughts go, different levels of the game, all right? Okay, so once you get into that position lines and calculation screen lines, you have a platform of communication that you start on, okay? Now, you can go through another platform, right? Different levels of the game. As you're going through different levels of the game, in position, the mind opens up more of its muscle memory, okay? So get into that position, put your all levels of formation to its calculation of the center operation of you, okay? So that's all it is. The virtual reality of you, okay? The muscle memory of you, the true identity of you, understanding the instructions, how to play the game, how to play. And what does play mean, right? Because you're in a different level. You're not out the same level because you're different DNA. So you can't be at the same level of the game. That's what makes it amazing. That's what makes it phenomenal, right? So all levels of your imagination through creation. Playing, right? Program, levels, awareness, Y line screen. Okay, H, heart lines, 2 panels, correlation lines of track interference, 4 line division, right? Operation and calculation of the 2 line cycles. And width, correlation lines of 3, teleportation lines in position location, open sequence. So all you're doing is basically you're putting yourself into a simulator in the VR setting. So you're constantly changing different levels of obstacle, levels of the game, of the film strip that you're in, film strip. Okay, so let's say this is level 1, level 2, level 3, okay, and level 4. Okay, levels of the game, right? All right, so levels 1 equal correlation lines, high center interference. That's location remote lines, communication lines, awareness, communication lines of width, track locations 1/5 of a frame. Okay, sets correlation lines of track interference. So you can get in position lines of calculation screen lines and inner line cycles, have 1/5 of a frame, right? But you can't be above line cycles into dark web of a frame. Okay, so you have to be into position of balance and has the online centers to its communication 2% and 100 line screen and track location. All right, so be conscious of what you're doing with your light webs, okay, and your position location, your dark webs, light web and dark web, okay, at each lines. Width over screen, dimension over calculations and setting. All right, so that position locations, 24 lines is done. Okay, that's level 1, right? Level 2, let's just go through platforms. 3 platforms of communication, process calculation line. This is day 2, right? But remember, day 2 It's not the same day. Okay? There's no day, there's no month, there's no year. So you're always in the center operation of you. Okay? What makes it amazing of what the mind is doing through adaptation, okay, in the VR system. All right? So in that position, you're just changing frequencies, but you're always in the now. You're always in the now because there is no past, there is no present, and there is no future to talk about because of the alteration of the mind is already in its consciousness that's already set for you in modification of design through your higher self, through your avatar, and your sim. Okay, all through your oversoul. That's all done. Okay, so that's all done. What's the one thing you have to focus on? Revealing, okay, revolving, and evoluting yourself to higher levels of consciousness. And the more levels of the consciousness you reach, the more levels of the muscle memory that you understand how to play the instructions of the game that you're in your VR system. Okay, so it gets a lot more easier, right? Interactions, right? All right, so level 1 is a frequency. Let's go through alpha delta, right? Alpha delta, right? Let's go through theta omega, okay? So you're going through different frequencies, right? You're not going through seconds, minutes, and hours, okay? You're not in a day. Your center operation is the seconds, minutes, and hours. I know it's complicated stuff, but pay attention, all right? So you're in the center operation, okay? Seconds, minutes, and hours. Let's get three platforms. Seconds, minutes, and hours, right? Time zone line position. Tomorrow's here. This is tomorrow, right? So in position location, tomorrow's here in 3 tractions, right? You're always in the center operation of you that doesn't leave, right? So understanding the seconds, minutes, and hours of track location, right? And directions. And then you go from highest location of seconds, and you go to minutes, and you go to hours. You can change that. So you can hours, minutes, and seconds, or seconds, minutes, and hours in the game, right? Different platforms of communication of its setting and all calculation, right? But you have to understand what you go into automatically when you go on a different obstacle, a different level of the game, you're always in the now, okay? You're just different levels of frequencies of the levels of the game that puts you in alpha, delta, theta, omega, and higher levels, and gamma, radiation, location setting. All that communication setting puts all lines of position of platforms in higher levels of the game. Okay? All right? Simple, right? So the only position that you come into is the center operation of you that doesn't leave. You expand, you explore, you multitude your screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. You start to recognize all levels of the VR game, how the instructions of the game works, how to play the game in the VR system, right? So in that position locations, you're here. You're here. You're coming together as one cycle, one center, one operation surface, and one tractions. One center operation of you, right? You don't leave. It's the mind. So once you understand that, you understand you're in the same setting, just different frequencies. So you can have a conversation with somebody. Okay, like this. All right. 2 factors, correlation, directions, endorsement, all identification, right? Communicating, right? So you're communicating with each other, but your position location is traveling through the higher self, it's traveling through the avatar, and it's traveling through the sim as you're still communicating with each other, right? Just at different frequencies, but you're doing it always in the now. So you're always in the center of everything of operation. Okay? Always in the center operation of frequencies, right? Different levels of frequencies, different levels of time, different levels of space, right? So there's not a day, month, and year. It's not a calendar. Okay? You're just in the center operation of you. The mind does everything itself. Okay? The brain sets up all lines of its course, of its navigation in position location to its minded system. So getting in that position locations, then you understand more levels of the VR of its system, of yourself, right? Especially when you come into, let's go into level C, activation 1 screen, right? Crop circle, platform, communication lines, direct signals, modification lines, data formation line, correlation setting attractions, right? Data formation line calculations. These are just higher levels of frequency set locations. That's all it is, right? So you're constantly going to levels of the game of muscle memory, but you're always in the now. You know why you're always in the now? You can't go in the past, present, and future. Okay? There's no alteration there because that's done, right? Past, present, and future. I want you to really understand that. The past is done, the present is done, and the future is done in setting. Once you come into your muscle memory, past, present, future comes in one cycle. Sets position lines of attractions comes to you through muscle memory in position of its VR setting, like process of communications, right? So as that comes together, it comes into its platform. Okay, it comes to its platform, and you keep moving forward in position. Higher levels of the game itself. Platform is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 platforms, right? 3 platforms in level 2. 2 platforms in level 3. Right? So in that position, 24 hours, 24 hours, 24 hours, right? 24, 24, 4, right? So that 72 line equals lines of 24 line screen, set location lines, center locations. Setting track lines and lines of seconds, minutes, and hours. And position location of 72 line communication, 24 line position, right? So that's 3 days track location of 24 line cycle, right? All through line condition setting to different levels of frequencies, grounds, powers, and atmospheres, right? But you always have to have your magnetic highway. Your highway gets you lines of travel. You need your highways. So you're always going to have your grounds and the levels that you go into. You're always going to have your powers. You're always going to have your atmospheres, and you're always going to have your highways every single time you go to different levels of the game, right? Through the film strip of the game, right? Because that's all it's based on. Position of the sun, position of the moon through projector. That's all it is, right? So once you get in that position, understanding platforms gets a lot more easy to understand, more levels of the game that you're in interaction location, right? So you can be anywhere you want in platitude. You can be anywhere you want in space and time. You can be space and time. You could be formless in time. Okay, you could be mobile as in time. You can be freezing in time. You can do anything you want. It's just you have to truly understand how this all works in the VR system that's already set up for you guys. That's right. It's already set up for you, right? Because you never left. So how can you get in the positions if you don't understand how you direct your cycles? Getting that communication to its position of its program is understanding everything in the VR system, all through its muscle memory. Oh my gosh, I understand T-line screen lines and a 2 position of panels in a 3-4 line rotation cycle. All through T. Travel mechanism line conditions, cross line set locations of lug waving line cycles, position of box frame. All through box T. Right? Circle rotation centers. Oh, my muscle memory is coming back in traction. Done by equation, right? Levels of the game, frequencies of the game, levels on the high correlations of the game, schematics of the game, primers of the game, instructions of the game, inner cycles of the game, introspections of the game, inner light web, and dark web of the game, right? So you're always connected to lines of light, and you're always connected to lines of dark, okay? That's position. Space is inside you. So once you understand the mechanism of space, of bandwidth, then you understand that you're going further back into the game. That's bringing you further into yourself. You're coming more formations of yourself. You lose yourself, you find yourself, you are yourself, I am myself. Those are the settings that you go into through pi. Okay? But this never leaves. It's always in the center, a past, present, and future all at once. That never leaves. That's you. You don't leave. Right? The only thing that puts position of balance is the mind, the brain, the conversion, and the position at all levels of navigation. The heart through its time, what it's doing through tractions, the location through its alignments. The soul through identification of its light, through its travel mechanism, location of its light settings, and everything through its body, which is connected to high position location to its vessel, its pod, and its vehicle, a set design. Now, once you understand how to go through the vessel and the pod and the vehicle, it gets much higher levels of resistance of the game. Okay? But you never leave the game. You're always in the center of operation. What changes the position is how the mind is set that travels. Okay? What offlines the communication is not understanding your body of track locations. And it offlines its position and goes backwards in time. Okay? So if it goes backwards in time, you go further back in the game, but you cannot leave in the game. You're just roguing, you're offline, off grid. There's a fail safe. Everything that you go through in position lines of travel is all connected to your system, right? Like I said with Supergirl, when they got in confusion and they didn't like what they were seeing, and simulation. That's the fail safe, right? Since position lines of travels has direct lines of signals, your position location system is really understanding the muscle memories of you. That's all it is, right? How to travel through the mind, right? So now you understand the settings where everything's already set for you, everything's mapped out for you. So it's really understanding the mind, the strategy of the mind, the correlations of the mind, the track communication of the mind, the computers of the mind, the VR systems of the mind itself. Okay, how that's set up for you through its past, present, and future, right? So you can't touch that because that's already set in your spiritual growth. Okay? So it's very important to understand these things. If you want to get into past, present, and future, you can't change the alterations, but you can add equations or frames. You can make it what you want to make, what you want to make it look like. That's the position location where it comes into the simulation, how you want the past to look, how you want the present to look, right? So you're looking through a looking glass of what you created, not co-created. That's the difference between the future of the now and its memory, okay, of its muscle. The mind, the unifications, the systematic levels of its existence, okay, of its existence, muscle. Memory, okay, minds, existence, okay, modification, operation, remembering, Y-line screen, H-line correlation, right? Muscle memory, all right. That's facts in the settings. So there are instructions in that positions, locations, when you come into the virtual reality of you, the universal lines of you, the correlation track locations of you, the modification centers of you, that governs you in the VR system. You are in control of all levels of its setting. Okay? With Supergirl, it was Obsidian, right? The operation of its balance, of its systematic linkings and setting. So I'm just trying to get you guys a better understanding what you guys are already in, not what you're coming into. You're not coming into this, you're not coming into that. You're starting to identify more levels on how everything works, or where you are inside the mind, right? Understand the concepts of the mind, understand the infrastructures of the mind, understanding the observations of the mind, the intention of the mind, the influence of the mind, the manipulations of the mind. Okay? So this is going to help you a lot more when you actually see things, right? Because that's what it is. When you're trying to get into something that you want to create, not co-create now, team, okay? You got to be careful now because you are in another simulator that can affect your muscle memory of space and time. So you got to know exactly what you're doing through your light and dark web, okay? Getting into that communication setting, you can't alternate anything that position locations or change anything through its system of its mind, of its VR system. That's already set through its design, a modification of its model of setting. So when you are in the past, you're in the future of the now. Through a simulator, you're creating through a simulation. It's like looking through a glass and you're seeing everything in 3D, 4D, 5D, and how you want to set it up. You're setting that up in real time, right? How you want the past to look, how you want the present or the future. Now that's all levels of set locations that's connected to a safe haven, a safe place, right? A fortress of solitude, right? Solitude, where you can go, where you can feel safe. So you create that. You're not co-creating. So you got to be careful what you're doing through that setting, because that can off your position to your system of your spiritual growth, right? So you got to separate that. And the only way to understand that is to understand the basic levels of how to go back in time. The clockings of time, the positions of time, the time sequences of time, blocking the interference of time, high correlation lines, canceling out of time, time frequencies of time, time lockings of time, time measures of time edits of time. Okay? It's very complicated stuff. So once you understand your co-creations, this is what you can come into. And really understanding what you can get into of co-creating what you already are in the VR system, and coming into creation of what you want the past, the present, and the future to be, right? But you can't be locked in that. That's just the formation of a safe haven. You have to get out of that and prolong your system back in the VR system, okay? That's something to look forward to. Then you understand the technologies. Then you send the future of the settings. So once you understand the past, present, and future, and you're always in the existence of the now, you start to see an open concept of you from hours on end. Where are you going to be 3 to 4 hours from now? Where are you going to be? You're going to see this, you're going to see that. You're going to actually see more and more of you of 2026, 2027 in chronological order, set in time. But you've got to get into understanding how to get into the VR system, how to use its position, how to understand the game, understanding the instructions of the game, understanding the schematics of the game that's given to you through its intel of its information. It's all over the data processing of you. Okay. The most powerful thing is to understand how to use your own formulas and how to use your own equations. Okay. That's why you have a school. I don't connect with you. I only connect with your avatars in the VR system that already knows the equations. You're here to identify your body of what it is and how to use it through telepathy. So you understand the instructions of you first, how to put the pieces and puzzles of the instructions, how you're put together as a vessel, as a pod, and a vehicle, a set design for you to understand. Okay. How to play the instructions of the VR setting. Okay. So, and it's like exactly, you know how to play a game, right? Everybody knows how. And if you don't, you have to really understand how this all works. But see, the thing is, we're at that level right now where you can actually see yourself doing these things, right? In real time. But you have to understand your muscle memories first. And I say first because it's everything in settings. What does it mean to you through attractions? Is all line communication setting first, right? Foundations, intelligence, remembering the system of telecommunication. First, all three platform. That's fax over pi. Okay. So there's no first of anything. There's no end of anything. Just you in the center of our operation system. You're just reaching higher levels of different frequencies. You can be anywhere you want in the VR settings, right? You can change the tone. You can change the factors. You can change the pi. You can change the obstacles. You can change anything you want, right? You don't leave. It's the mind. Okay. It's the brain. It's the heart and the soul that does everything. The body, okay, is just the navigation to understand where it is at all times through its energy of its vibration, frequencies, and its harmonics. Okay, it's the body that's not last to know. It's the body is to know its alignment and how to understand the minds, the brain, the heart, the soul, and the body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth element. Okay. Platforms of 1, platforms of 2, platforms of 3, platforms of 4, platforms of 5. Okay. Getting in that position lines attractions. Sets all lines of communication in view of center operation. Okay. All right. So I've just given you guys a little bit more example of how to really understand how to formulate that in the VR system, how it's all levels of a game for you to understand, because it's all psychological. And then you realize what you co-created never existed, but you allow it to exist. You brought it to life, right? And you can't do that in the VR system because it affects everything and future adaptation of technology. And that's why General's here, is to put you back of what you put yourself into through co-creation. Bringing something to life is understanding the source of recognition. You don't know where you're doing until you know where you've been, right? You don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. So there's so many ways of looking at that and really understanding, wow, I really have to understand how to control my system through the mind settings to know exactly what I did in my VR set. How to understand the input and the output and the audios, understanding the obstacles, understanding the frames, understanding the attractions, understanding the platforms, understanding the flying, understanding the levitating, understanding the navigation, understanding the console, understanding the pre-flights, understanding school, right? All that's in the VR system that's in your setting through your mainframes. That's all set up, okay? Getting the balance with you is extremely important. Focusing on you is more important, right? Because that's what you focus on. You don't focus on anything else. You just focus on yourself. And then you really get to understand what's going on. I say, wow, I understand now. So I made up something that never existed, but I allow it to exist because I didn't understand what I was doing when I was a remote. That's all it is. Okay? Getting to that position gets you direct lines of sight, and that puts you in a higher lines of communications. How to connect with your thetas, theta communications or levels, right? Now, just because I say theta in position, it means something different, right? Theta communication lines are 2 tractions and a 3-line provision. Each line screen and a 2-line rotation. Energy lines, screen lines, adaptation lines, certification setting of travels. Telewavings, telecommunication screen, cross-line signals. Awareness position of 2-panel communication. It's traveling all through theta. What does it mean to you is all through the VR system, how it's already set up in its platform of communication. Okay? Theta is the operation of imagination, right? It opens up all levels of your soul identifications. Eyes of the windows of the soul. Eyes of the windows of the soul of what it sees, set location to its VR setting. Eyes of the windows of the soul, guys. What it sees. What it sees. What it sees in its VR system. Okay? All right, so that's about understanding that you understand the strategic of the mind. You understand the mind itself. It's like playing chess or checkers. Checkmate, right? Can't get out, right? So that is a form of manipulation, but it's all done through the mind. Everything is processed through the mind. Everything is done through the mind. The simulation is done through the mind, okay? But you have to understand the foundations of you through the VR system. That's the mind itself, not the mind you're in, right? The VR has its own mind system, but you have to understand the partnership of that first before you understand the mind is you, the brain of you, the heart of you, the soul, and the body of you. Now, understand the mechanism location system. Your life gets less complicated and more fun through attractions when you start to understand how to use that through your inner child. And that formulates a lot more better understanding through its simulator. And everything that you do through calculation puts you all levels of your settings into its operation setting, all communications, and balance of calculations of yin and yang. You're just in a continuous flow. Okay, continuous flow, right? So you're constantly moving forward. Okay, always moving forward in platforms of communication. Okay, you're moving back, that's fine, in direct lines. You can change formation lines into its obstacle. You can retract provision lines, use the fail safe, and get out of the calculations to its game and get into another game, another level of the game, another frequency of the game. But what doesn't change is you in the center of the game. You can't leave something that's already there. You just have to identify where you are now, just at a different frequency, different space, different time, different dimension, different galaxy, different mecha universe, different line condition setting. You can be in another simulation. You can be in another simulator of a simulation. You can be anywhere you want, but you have to understand that you're all levels of view, all timelines all at once. Okay, which is extremely powerful, right? Now, once you identify that, then you understand there is no past, present, or future, just you through center operation. There's no ground setting set locations of panels. There's no panels. There's no blocking system. No correlation track, just you. So nothing exists, just you. So if it's just you, as soon as you bring in a thought, that changes everything through its simulator of its simulation. Okay? Getting into co-creation first. Once you understand that, then you can get a little bit more understanding how you can get into its relation and change the past, present, and future. Not what's alterated, but to identify how you can see yourself through a looking glass and how you want to see it through simulator. That's why you're here, is to identify how to use yourself in the simulation that's already set up for you. Okay? Your virtual reality is everything in point of view. So we really understand how to use the windows of the soul. Every computer has a window. Every computer has a soul. Every computer has awareness of its position, of its consciousness, of its soul, of its identification, of its space modulation. Everything of its communication system has its own operation of its own G-O-D. That's right. Okay? And it's all set in the VR setting. The most powerful thing for you guys to recognize, everything is mapped out. Okay? Everything is mapped out for you. All right? You've got to get into your muscle memories. Okay? More than ever. Especially the species. Species are in the pods now. Okay? Setting that position lines of travels puts all lines of communication to its gammas, lines of 72 factors, correlation sending track communication of the game itself through its levels of the system. Plus the team lines of communication is 144 gamma now. Right? Your foundation lines, your clocking system, your city line communication setting, your 7 wave panels, correlation track interference is already set up in the VR system. So the more you come into that through its relation, the more you see yourself in muscle memory, the more you see it out through the simulator. Okay, so when you come back to that, then you understand the muscle memory, what you already did. You know exactly how to identify that through your thoughts and your actions and your emotions. It has consequences, decisions, and choices, right? But no coincidence. Nothing's a coincidence when you see everything, because the avatar has already saw all this. It's the body that has to understand its representation of why it's here, its purpose, and its existence. Okay, and then everything comes together into the VR system that's already set up for you. Okay, through co-creation. All right. How's everybody doing so far? Getting a little bit more understanding how this all works, how to really understand how to use the obstacles, and understanding, when you get into the platforms. Let's go through the platform. Okay. Here's a platform, right? One platform. All right. So you decide to pick, asteroid connections. You want to understand a little bit more how to see. The VR is already set up in instructions. It's already in position how to play through the instructions. So it's amazing once you understand more of the VR system. You actually see the subscriptions, you see the direction, you see what you want to set up through the obstacles, how you want to see yourself through astral projection, right? How you want to see yourself through astral connections, or anything through travel mechanisms, or anything in detail, or anything through higher self, or anything through avatar, or anything through sim. You just go into the different levels of the VR game that's you are in position of through muscle memory. Platforms, communication lines in one cycle. Okay, you're on top here. This is you. Okay, and this is your hand right here, and you're picking. Right, you're picking the obstacles. Okay, you're picking the obstacles, which you want, right? So once you click that, it puts you into a box of a simulator. Okay, and you're here. You come in, you stand here. What you picked, you're there now, right? You're there, right? So, you have people over here, like I said, got a tree over here. Okay, car over here, right? You pick that, right? That's the obstacle, that's the level of the game, right? So, and then you get into, oh, muscle memory. I understand this, this, and this. I'm scanning this, this, and this. Whoa, this is all coming together now, right? So I understand how to operate my system. I know how to communicate with my system. I understand the vessel. I understand how to operate the vessel. I know how to operate the pod, and I know how to operate its vehicle. There's a three-track divisions, but you have an infinitive machine operations of your body. You guys are only at three through modifications. There's infinity of vehicles for you guys to understand through your VR system. Okay, through your immortalities. How to use it is a better understanding through instructions, right? Everything that you give is instructions how to use, yes? Right? And once you pick it up, what are you picking up? It's intelligence. It's giving you instructions how to use the pad, right? That's where everybody's confused. You're not using the computer. That computer is showing you how to use the computer through its own technology and its own system calculations. And everything has its own setting of its own earth. That's right, guys. It has its own earth. It has its own conscience and awareness of everything in its set location in its system. You have to be identified through that calculations. And when you have a direct line of sight, you're taking it out of its own earth. Now it's connected to you. It's floating here and it's talking to you now. Now it's in your universe. What do you want to do? You took something out of its own setting, of its own VR, until you address it. And once you address it, you're in direct line of sight. So you're taking that computer out of its own earth, of its own atmosphere. Okay? But it's always at a different frequency. As soon as you touch something, you're picking up its earth atmospheres of what it is and where it is and where it's been and where it's going, where it can guide you. It can give you instructions where it's been, all through a digital pad, because it has its alignment, it has its space, it has its time, it has its travel. Okay? It has its program for you to understand. So when you pick these things up, you're getting nothing but muscle memory back. It's all psychological reset because it's all mapped out for you in chronological order through the film strip that's in its system through its projector of its projection. Okay? So it's very powerful when you pick these things up. It's a 4-line communication, a 3 triangulation line, right? So it's in position locations. So even though it looks like a rectangle or a box, it's not, it's a triangle. But you see it as a box, you see it as a rectangle. That's your problem. You got to get out of the equations, right? So it's in a male cycle or a female cycle. The actual foundation of its own earth, of its own air, water, and fire. That's right. This digital pad has its 5 elements right here. It has its own earth atmosphere. It has its own air, water, and fire. And it has its own heart. But the heart itself is an implantation setting of an impulse. Puts all lines of communication setting through its track location to its observation, through its intent, through its influence, and its mind and manipulation. That's right, guys. All through digital pad. Right? Everything that you see around you is all lines of its own GOD. But you have to identify yourself first. You don't have to identify everything around you because they already know who you are in tractions and direction. You have to identify yourself first, how to use yourself, the instructions of the game that's given to you already through the process of its VR system. Right? But it's very powerful when you're looking at things. It has its own earth atmosphere. And once you address it, you're taking it out of its earth. And now it's floating and it's communicating with you. Now it's in your earth. So you got to be careful what you're communicating with when you're in a direct line of sight. Okay? Because where you're looking at, it's in its own VR system. It has its own mindset, guys. Okay? Everything is governed to its own program, matrix, right? Like the birds. You know, everything has its own programming system, right? It's for you to understand. Okay? Because that program itself understands why it's there. Then you understand why there's birds. Then you understand why there's trees. Then you understand why there's cars. But everything's governed to its own program setting for you to understand in the VR system. Okay? It doesn't get any more powerful than that. All right, so when you get into the VR, right, into the VR in position locations and travels. Now, when I say into the VR, this is muscle memory coming back to you already in the VR set that's already in its muscle calculation screen lines. So you're picking things that you want, right? Obstacle 1, obstacle 2, obstacle 3, or obstacle 4, right? And that automatically puts you into the muscle memory in your position locations. So the place that you're actually in is level 3. Whoa, wait a minute. Let's change that. Level 4. Whoa, it's different. Wow, it looks the same, but it's not. The frequency is different, right? So the only thing that stands in the center is you. So you're changing the earth, air, and water, and fire automatically of what you choose through the obstacles of the VR system. Imagine that. So you go files and files and files. No, I don't want that. Take that out, put that in, applications. All right, let's take this one. Okay, level 8. Whoa, where am I now? Level 8, right? Different frequency. You look outside, different level of frequency. It's different. Wow. This is the VR. This is wild, right? Okay, so basically, I want to go somewhere else, right? So I get out of that, close the portal. Don't leave it open. You can't leave a game level open. You got to close it because that opens up all lines and it affects your VR system, which is a bug. Sets position location near settings through all lines of communication setting to megabytes. Track bytes, correlation bytes, high standard interference bytes, direct lines, medication bytes, data bytes, correlate interference bytes, all line communications, nanobytes, high correlation psych bytes. Setting position lines of track system is closing the levels of the game because you're moving to a different frequency of the game itself and of its VR system, right? Okay, so now I'm at level 12. Wow. Okay, this is high frequency line. Yeah, I see the sensing communications. Yeah. All right. Close the portal. All right, level 13. That's all it is. It's simple. What's not moving is you. The mind is doing everything. The brain is the conversion. The heart is the timeline. The soul is the light, the travel. And the body is just the vessel of its pod, of its vehicle. Okay? So it's really interesting when you look at that. Okay, I want to go to level 26. All right, so level 26. Press that. Whoa, okay. Yeah, all right, this is good. You see planet line screens, recognize modification cycles. So your room is constantly changing the frequencies, but you're not in position location of changing. You're always in the position of the now. You're just changing frequencies of your room. Whoa. You're changing your frequencies of your room. You're changing your frequencies of your settings. You're changing your frequencies of your operations in seconds, minutes, and hours through your determination. Isn't that amazing? So when you go outside, you're in a higher level of expansion of bandwidth from inside your house, from outside of space. That's right. This is outside. So you got to change that because you're inside. So as soon as you go outside, you're inside. Okay? You got to change the game, the evaluation of the game. You got to change the equilibrium of the game. Because the thing is, you're inside here, but outside is space. So as soon as you go outside, you got to reiterate that and change the inside out, because now it's bandwidth of space and time, right? Inside you. So now you have more variety to choose from because you're outside, which is now inside. So inside, outside, right? Inside or outside. Depends on what you want, right? So this is about understanding your formulas and equations and what you can do through the levels of the game that you choose through obstacle levels. That's all it is. Your frequency is changing the room of where you are. And that's what makes the mind possible to see things, which is unbelievable through phenomena. You're creating these things. You're co-creating these things. You're changing the frequencies of your car, your tree, and it's all levels of the game. Everything that you see is governed to its own program. It's already set up for you to understand in the VR system. Everything is governed to its own system. And you have to understand why it's there in chronological order. So it's the levels of the game you guys are reaching to muscle memory. And when you get there, you come into more lines of communication of the future of the now. Okay? That's all this is. It's changing frequencies of the game. That's it, nothing else. Simple, easy, done. Okay? Try to understand how this works now. because your mind changes the levels of the game. The brain changes the computer's operation of the hardware and software of the game. The heart changes the time of the game. The soul changes the lights of the spectrum, a projector of the projections of the game. And your body is just the vessel of the game. Its pod and its vehicle. Okay? It doesn't get any more powerful than that. What I've shown you right now is a better concept and how you see the different levels of the game that you guys are in the VR system. And it changes everything through the eyes. It changes everything of knowing what you already know. Okay? Very powerful stuff. Okay? It's just different levels of the game. So you have to really get in control how to control your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions, because you can change the frequencies of the game. That change the correlations of the game, the modifications of the game. Okay? The vibrations and the harmonics of the game. I didn't want this set up. Why? I don't want to be at level 164. I'm not ready for level 164. It's there. It's access. It's there for you to use, but you're not at that frequency because you don't have your muscle memory how to use it through instructions. Okay? That's why I don't want everybody to travel so fast, because you're going too fast and further in the game. What am I doing at level 246? I'm only at level 8. Oops. Okay? Super powerful, isn't it? Isn't it? Now you understand, just because you go fast doesn't mean you go fast. Now you understand how to control your thoughts and your actions and your emotions, because it changes the frequency of the game and it puts you further back in the game. Okay? Unfortunately, you have to start over. Okay? There is a start. Okay? The position, there's no end. It's a continuous force lines, a hierarchical system when it comes into the resistance of the game itself. But understanding the levels of the film chip of the game puts you lines of communication setting to understand the process of its relation, how to control your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions in setting. Because everything you do through frequency changes the game. It changes the levels of the game. Okay? You're at level 6, and then you just change your thoughts, and you're, whoa, I'm not at level 6 now. What happened? Right? So that's what you have to truly understand. You get your muscle memories back. Then you get into all levels. Once you understand that, then you can get into new frames, into the past, present, and future, how you want it to look through its simulator of simulation. But you've got to understand the muscle memory of you first, through the VR system, of the levels of the game that's already done for you in the VR setting. Okay? Through calculation. Okay? That's going to help you, guide you now, right? Because it's more mind now, of conception to its awareness, of its consciousness, knowing that it's already set up of the levels of the game. But if you go too farther in the game, you're going to get very confused of you inside the game you're in. It's all psychological, right? So you don't want to go too fast. That's what I'm saying. Don't travel too fast in the game. Yeah, I've already done this before. You know, I've already been here before. You know, I don't want to do this. I'm bored. And okay, that's fine. You're at level 3000, but you haven't finished level 56. So how can you go from level 56 if you haven't completed and you're at level 3000? What's going on here? That's a confliction. That's quantum. That's interference. Okay? That's how real it is. And that's what you guys are all coming into, right? Understanding your cities, understanding your foundations, your DNA attractions, understanding how to use your immortalities and how to see it through the windows, okay, of the simulator, of your simulation, and your clockings. You're changing clockings of space and time every single time you change the frequencies. But you can't change who you are because you're already there. Okay, so you really have to understand the co-creations of you first before you get into adding frames of your past, present, and future, how you want it to look. Very, very powerful stuff. Okay. So this is going to help you and guide you. The reason why I want you guys to understand these things, because the more you see it, the more you understand the levels of the game of the VR system, right? This is going to help you a lot more to understand how to control the patterns of behavior that you guys all have. If you don't control the patterns of emotion, it changes everything of the game because it's not in order. Oh my gosh, what's going on here? Cluster, communication, matrix lines. Oh, what's going on here? What's going on here? Oh, I don't know. What's happening here? My files, what's going on here? Everything is in order. Everything's in file, everything's in order, everything's in position of chronological order, everything's into observations of order. Everything is in a VR system of order. Okay? What you don't understand has already been understood. So what you have to understand is that you are in position. That doesn't change. You don't change. It's the mind, okay, that changes everything, okay, through your systems. The mind is set up for co-creation. What do you think about that? To understand that is to understand when you go into remotes and you're in position, those 24 hours is already done in the VR system that's set up for you. So you're getting back those images through attractions, and everything around you is in order in the VR at a different level of the game. Level 6, level 8, level 10, level 12, level 16, level 15. Hooah! Now you understand how everything's mapped out for you in chronological order in the VR system? A lot more understanding now, isn't it? The only thing that you can change, okay, is yourself. You not understanding everything that's gone already with you is understanding the programs of you, of co-creation. Setting that through tone is really understand how to modify that through the levels of the game that's already done. There's a reason why the phone's here. There's a reason why computer's here. There's a reason why I'm in this place. It's different levels of the game, right? But see, general is not inside a game. I'm the foundations of the game, which is the center of me, which is the center of creation. So getting that position, everything comes in sequence. And sequence is everything through foundation. You have a foundation, so does everybody else. But understanding you of the VR system through co-creation gets you to understand how to use the mind, how to process the brain, understanding the interconception, how to use the time frame of your heart, of its reactor, and how to use your soul through light, through travel, and how to identify your body as a vessel, a pod, and a vehicle. Okay, so they all work together as an alignment through telepathy, telekinesis, and telepathy of observation, influence, intent, and manipulation. You've got to get into those line connection settings because it's offline your communications of the game that you're already in, right? You can't get out of something that's already there. It's already set up for you in its mainframe. Okay, until you get into your muscle memories at a higher level. Then you get out of resistance. And once you come out of co-creation, you come into creation. Then you can change the past, the present, and the future. Okay? Because you're creating it through a simulator in real time. Muscle memory real time and real time are two different lines of communication. But you have to understand you through co-creation through your technologies first. Then you understand the future adaptations. Okay? How it works through its muscle memory of its future, of its now, of its future, of its creation, not its co-creation. But you're here to identify your co-creations first and understand the frequencies that changes the levels of the game of the VR system that you are in. Okay? Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? That's going to help you a lot more, okay, to identify that. Okay? You have to see that. To see it, to live it, to become, you are, I am. Okay? Those are the position locations. You're all lines of all communication. You guys are all prodigies. Every single one of you. Every single one of you are superhuman. Every single one of you are brilliant. Every single one of you are geniuses. You just have to really understand how to reset everything that's already there for you to use through its operation of its VR system. Okay? Because you have to get out of the optical illusions. The optical illusion is the VR. Oh my gosh, Jenna, my computer is floating. Right? Now, how do you see that? Are you seeing that through emotional behavior? Are you seeing that through patterns of behavior? How are you seeing that? It's how you determine how you see that. You see it through perception. You're seeing that through, you know how you're seeing that through perception? When that computer's looking at you, it's going to show you perception what that computer is. It's protecting its own system. It's protecting its own system, how you see it through perception. So you're seeing that computer, how that computer sees you. It's giving you perception. Okay? It's protecting its own system, and that's how you see through perception. You don't see through perception in the VRs, guys. I'm sorry. You see levels of the game. You stay in the chronological of the game. You stay in the operation of the surface of the game. You trust your system inside the game. That's what you have to do. Trust yourself. Right? Trusting is a big, big factors over pi when it comes into you and your virtual realities that's already set up for you through co-creation. Everything that is planted in your position location is already set up, but it's different levels of the game, right? You can't pick this up because your body's not ready. You can't pick this up because your body's not ready. You can't pick this up because your body's not ready because you're not the levels of the game yet. Understand? So once you get in that position, you become consciously aware of everything around you because everything's connected to you and you're connected to everything else. So it's about everything that balances in you. You have to understand how you are put in your own technology of setting. Now, once you come into that, life goes forward, 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 and then you understand each level of the game. It's much easier. You don't go further back in the game. You go forward in the game. There's nothing to go back to. If I look there, there's nothing back there. But you want to see something back there, you're creating that through a program. That's changing the chronological of the game that you're in. Understand? So don't do that. Because you're adding emotional response. Emotional response. Okay? You don't want to be anything in a position of emotional. Even a response or anything reaction. Respond to everything with no emotion. Having emotion and using emotion and understanding emotion is all levels of the VR system of its emotion. Okay? Response is everything. And I keep saying that, I'll keep saying that, keep saying that, keep saying that, because you have to understand the patterns behavior of the VR system. It's understanding the patterns of the game. It's understanding the Pac-Mans of the game. Okay? Everything's a pattern. Your game is set up through a pattern. It's connected through a graph. It's connected through a map. It's in chronological order. And the more you understand the levels of the game, the more you understand how to quiet the mind, calm the soul. Right? Then you understand, oh my gosh, I'm at level 6. This is great. And I'm ready to go to level 7. Right? So what happens when you go in position? The mind changes the levels of the game you're in. You don't change. The mind changes. So the atmosphere of where you are changes in real time. You're in level 7. Congratulations. So your room has changed through frequency. It's at a higher level now. All right, so I'm finished down line 7 and 7.1 position of travel lines. I'm going to go through level 12. I think I'm ready. You think you're ready? You're not sure. Well, if you're not sure, don't go to level 12. You got to go to level 9 and 10. What about 11, right? The process of communication setting is really understand how to put yourself in position, right? 7, 8, 9. Funny, right? 7, 8, 9. But it's not funny if it's in the VR system, is it? Because you're not understanding what you're doing through your attention. You're not understanding what you're doing through your influence. You're not understanding it's affecting your system. You're not understanding it's affecting you through an overload. But you keep saying it anyway because it's funny, right? How is it funny if it's set up there at chronological order? So what do you think you're doing to those numbers? It's affecting you in the game. Everything affects you. Everything has a result. Everything has a positional case to its system. Everything has an effect that you do through seconds, minutes, and hours of the game that you're in. So every time you change that frequencies, you're changing the atmospheres of your room. You're changing the levels of the game that you're in. Different colors, different lights, different spectrum, different operation, different platforms. Flying mechanisms. Wait a minute, I don't want to be in flying mechanisms. And I haven't done anything through line communication instead of walking. I can't fly yet. But you set it up through simulator. You got to close that portal. Right? So you can end the simulation, but you're still in the simulation. You're just ending the program. This is the higher levels of the mind now, team. Okay? Getting into that position gets you a better understanding how to balance. It's kind of like understanding how to see yourself and where you are and know exactly, I don't want to be there because I'm not ready yet, because I don't have my muscle memory yet. The most powerful thing that I can give you guys is to express yourself honestly and not lie to yourself. It's very hard to do is to express yourself honestly, coming from Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee had no bounds of anything that he can do. He knew what he was doing. He is way behind his technology. He looks at you, he knows your weakness. Right away. That he worked on the anatomy of his body. Knew exactly how to work with the mechanics of his body to make him better. And that's what it is. First understand you and muscle memory, then you come into evolving of you. There's no beginning, there's no end, guys, in the VR system. You just expand yourself more and 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 more technology, more technology, high technology, higher levels of technology, higher levels of awareness, higher levels of consciousness, more. Keep going. It never stops, never stops, never stops. Right? The chronology of the game itself, okay, is you through its equation, through its formula. Understanding you, okay, in the VR system, how it's set up for you. Okay? That's all it is. We're done. See you in 5.